Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first of our series of marketing roundtables. Today, I would like to introduce you to our facilitators, which Margaret Doan, she's the Vice President of Operations and Client Services at GKA Advertising, and Beth Perell, who's Marketing Communications Consultant at Beth Perell Consulting. So why don't I turn it over to you, Beth? And if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat and mute yourself. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Margie, and thanks, Margaret, for being here today. Margaret and I also co-chaired the marketing committee of the Rockville Chamber. So if you all have some ideas or things that you'd like to see, since it's a smaller group, we'd love to hear from you as we're going through the presentation. And yeah, just type in some questions in the chat as we go, and we can probably have some conversation since it is a smaller group today, which is totally fine. So we are talking about a topic about putting your best foot forward online. So Margaret and I both work with lots of different companies of different sizes, and we talk through some things that we see some companies are doing well and some that are not doing so well, and wanted to just put some of these tips. Some of these things are really easy to do. And some of these take a little bit of effort, but it's well worth the reward because you're getting a little bit more visibility for yourself and for your business. So we're going to talk through some things about why it's important to be online and what kinds of things can you do as a business owner to put your best foot forward. Margaret, do you want to say hello? Oh, she's muted.
There we go. Yeah. So I'm excited to be here today. I do think it's nice that we're a smaller group because I think that it will give us the opportunity to talk through some of these concepts in ways that apply to you. So as we're going through it, feel free to ask questions about specific things. And Margie, are you going to be keeping an eye on the chat and bringing up things that come up? Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Great.
Great. So excited to be here today.
All right, let's dive in. So the topics that we really wanted to focus in on today are making it easier for your customers and clients to find your business online, and then how to get reviews and testimonials, how to get that client feedback to know you're doing a great job and to demonstrate to other potential clients that, hey, I'm just not saying it's a great business and a great service for you, but I have all these other customers who are backing me up. And then how to really boost your social media engagement. So, how to get a schedule and get a routine to make sure you're getting your consistent message out to the people who should hear your message. So those are the three areas that we're going to focus on today. And, we'll take some questions if there's some other questions that you all have. Next slide. So why do I need to spend time on my online profile? I hear this sometimes from clients of, I have a brick and mortar store. I don't sell anything online. Why is it important for me to spend time on my social media and spend time on these profiles? Short answer is your competition is online. And customers really expect to find information about a business online. 97% of people go online to find a local business and look at their experiences. And it begins with the search engine, right? How many times are you out and about looking for somewhere to eat or somewhere to buy a certain specific item? You pop open your phone and you start looking. And you do some assessment as you're going through the page of Google results and who you might call and who might look a little sketchy or may not be so sure of, right? You look at the ones that have a little bit more bulk, a little bit more information about that organization. And I was on a webinar last week talking about millennials and how now it's about 73% of the workforce can be up to 73% is millennials. And one of their work habits is that they do a lot of research and they do their research online about companies. The webinar was about sales, and the way to sell to millennials is different because they do so much upfront research. But I think that upfront research then also translates to just their basic, consumer shopping, picking a restaurant, picking a store to shop at. I know my 18-year-old, he does not step foot in a restaurant without checking to see what the Yelp reviews or what some sort of Google reviews are. You know, even for like a Subway or something like that, he has to have the information before he makes that purchasing decision. So, you know, I'm seeing that in my own life and hearing that more and more. So it's really important that you have at least the basic information about your business online. Next slide. Oops, went too fast.
Oh, sorry.
So one of the big things for you to do is to claim and fill out your Google business profile. Are folks familiar with what that is? Kind of show of hands or nodding heads? Okay, great. If you do not, you need to go and grab your Google business profile, claim that business, and get the bare minimum filled out for there. I have the Rockville Chambers on here, and we were talking with Margie right before the webinar got started. She said, "Oh my gosh, those pictures, we need to update those." You know, so it's a good idea to go through and you know, even once a year to go through and make sure your hours are still correct, the address is correct, the email is, all that stuff is still correct. And then add some photos periodically. If you do things seasonally, you know, throw in some different pictures at different times of year. If you have different products that launch or different services that launch at different times of year, go ahead and highlight that here. This is what you'll see when you do a Google search, and then you see the search results down the, you know, the center left of the screen. And on the right-hand side, you see that right-hand box that looks like that. And from there, you see all the key information. And then you also see reviews, and we're going to talk about those reviews and why they're important and why it's important to get those and how to get those as we go here. But make sure you go ahead and do this. Get your profile claimed. It's free. It's a little bit of a clunky process sometimes, but it's not hard. It's, you know, they walk you through step by step, and it really ultimately helps your SEO, your search engine optimization. So what that means is people can find you easier. Next slide. So I'm going to let Margaret talk a little bit more about search, organic search, and some ads here.
Yeah. So we touched on SEO from the perspective of your Google profile, and that's really important. Other ways that you can make sure that you're able to be found online is by making sure that your website is SEO optimized. And that could be its own presentation entirely, talking about the different ways of doing that. But what you really want to do is, whatever platform your website is built on and whoever's managing it, go through and just ask them, you know, if things like your meta descriptions and your title tags are updated. Because those are the things that Google, as they are reading your website and looking for things to serve people as search results, those are the things that it really looks at to see if your information in there matches searchers' inquiries. So if somebody's looking for the best Thai restaurant in Rockville, you'd want to make sure that your title tags and meta description included things like Thai restaurant Rockville. And it seems really straightforward and really upfront, but just because you put that content on the front end of your website on the things that people see doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the back end correctly in a way that Google is going to read it. So that's an easy thing that you can check on, because that's what people see when they look at the organic results. And I put in some screenshots here. One of the things that's really interesting is that organic results are really buried. So you can see, this is an example on the left of the Maryland Orchid Society. That was an ad that showed up in my social media. It shows up as sponsored. But then when I searched for home builder Rockville, you know, I have 1, 2, 3 paid ads in Google My Business profiles, and then the organic results. So one of the other factors and ways that you can be found easily is by having paid search ads. So I think a lot of people are probably familiar with PPC, like pay-per-click platforms like Google Ads and Bing Ads. Those are great places to be if you have competition that is also looking to compete with you organically. So if everybody is looking to say that they're the best Thai restaurant in Rockville, one of the ways that you can edge up on the competition is by having a Google Ads account that helps you appear in some of these other search results. An example, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but this best 15 new and custom home builders in Rockville house, and the text underneath it, that's the title tag and meta description that they had on that article on their site. So that's how they were able to say, when somebody gets our result, they're going to see the information that we want them to see. Paid social ads are also great. They allow you to build the profile of the person that you want to be targeting. So you can say, I am looking for people in this specific demographic with these specific interests. So maybe people who live in Rockville who are in the 55 and up crowd who are interested in cultural events. Like they're a really good target for my Thai restaurant. You can build that profile and then serve ads to them, and they show up in the feed on Facebook and Instagram, just with like a little sponsored note. So it's a great way of especially driving if you have an event that's going on, or you have a special, or just building brand awareness. So a lot of people will engage on Facebook and Instagram because those two platforms are owned by the same company. So you can cross post to them and share your ads across them very easily. But there are also opportunities to pay for ads on different platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter, depending on who your demographic, who your audience is. So interesting options out there. And then talking about securing reviews and testimonials, I think on a couple slides back, we were joking about the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. That's Beth on the reviews. There's Beth. That might be Dawn. That might be me, or that is me. So getting those, and you can see this Chamber of Commerce, we've got a 5-star rating with 10 reviews. That's great. That is a really nice way of saying to the world, hey, you can trust the Rockville Chamber of Commerce. It increases your trust and transparency. It makes sure that there's online awareness of you. And again, it improves your SEO. It also gives you the opportunity as a business owner to understand what your customers are concerned about, or if they have feedback in ways that gives you an opportunity to improve your business operation. So Beth, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add here, but
yeah, no, I think it's a great point about getting your customer insights and feedback. I've heard from some companies where like, gosh, what if they're all negative reviews? They're not going to be all negative. You're going to get, you're going to get a negative review here and there. It's all in how you handle it, right? And if anything, a negative review thrown in the mix gives you a little bit more authenticity, right? Because nobody's perfect. And to see, okay, this company was late in delivering something I needed right away. But the owner of the company tries to make it right and tries to appreciate, that kind of back and forth, and that engagement with the customer goes a long way to show, okay, so they're not perfect, but they do try and make things right. So there, I always try and say there's opportunities when there's a mishap, right? So you got to look for those opportunities. So I wouldn't let the fear of having negative reviews on your page hold you back from going down that path.
Absolutely. I think even as a consumer, I am more likely to engage with somebody who has 20 reviews and 4 of them are negative than I would be to engage with somebody with no reviews. Because then you have no idea who they are or what you could expect.
Right.
Yeah, so there are different types of reviews out there.
Yeah, with Google, and this can be managed through your Google profile that we talked about earlier. You can get 1 to 5 stars, and you can add comments. And Margaret showed us the examples there. Those reviews will appear right in your Google business profile. So when people find you and get their, the key facts about your organization, they also see those nice reviews. And you can create this custom link and you can send it to people all from your dashboard from the Google business profile. So you can send that when you're following up with an invoice, or you're following up, as a next step, or do some more business development. You can include that as part of your feedback.
Facebook also allows you to gather reviews. They have changed their platform recently, probably within the last 6 months or so. They now have a recommend or don't recommend. So you can also link people to the review section of your Facebook page. And that's usually just facebook.com/your page/reviews. And that allows people to go in and say whether or not they recommend you. I know that it can be intimidating trying to figure out when to ask for reviews or figuring out like where in the process to do that. My feeling is that it's always better to do things sooner rather than later. I feel like if you put it off, if you don't do it, it's just never going to get done. People aren't going to remember, even if they say, oh yeah, I'll do it later, like they may not. My brother owns a coffee shop in Kansas City, and he jokes that, when somebody buys a cup of coffee and they take that first sip as they're standing there paying for it, he's like, oh, hey, will you give us a review? And they're like, yeah. And he like takes their phone from them and like puts it 5 stars and then like lets them hit like submit. And it sounds a little crazy, but like it's part of his brand and people go with it. But I think the point there is that he's being super proactive about it. He's like, no, you're not just going to tell me that you're going to review it. You're going to do it here and now. I was at Kaiser the other day and I walked out and there was a woman with tchotchkes standing by the front door being like, hey, you want a jump rope, write me a review, like, and she stood there and made sure that I filled out the thing, and I didn't take the jump rope, but saying like, hey, incentivizing people walking through the door to gather positive reviews. So I think like the point is to stay on top of it and to ask consistently until it happens, especially if you have a good relationship with somebody or you had a good experience with them. We bought a house back in 2019, and I see, Larry, you're with Apex. We worked with Apex, and the lender that we worked with, the gentleman did a great job of saying like, hey, Margaret, will you go online and write me a review? My realtor did a great job of following up with me until I wrote that review, and I got it on all the different platforms with him. So, no matter your industry, you are competing for reputation, and reviews build your reputation. So I don't think you'll annoy people. Yelp is also out there. I have clients who are very frustrated with Yelp. It is one of those things that once you start engaging with them, you really have to plan to be all in, because they are very predatory. If they think that you are going to possibly spend any money with them, they will come after you to spend that money. And it's one of those pay to play situations where they will try to pitch you ad platforms in order to keep your bad reviews down. And if you are wanting to do that, like if you're in a crisis, like maybe that's the way you want to go. But I have come to the point where I just kind of tell people, like, don't engage. Like, it is what it is, work on your Google reviews, work on your Facebook reviews. Yelp is what it is. It's user-generated reviews. People can go on there and write something. But typically speaking, it's we've just kind of been telling people to let it be, to respond to things as needed, but not to deal with it too much as an ad platform. So It's out there. Beth, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but it's.
No, I think Yelp has been around maybe the longest. I think Facebook and Google kind of came after Yelp and added those, integrated more into their platform. So it's got a little bit of longevity on its side. And I think a lot of people have migrated to tending towards more Facebook or Google these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some other reviews and testimonial opportunities, there could be industry specific platforms, right? You see a lot of times in magazines, the top 25 lawyers or the top 25 restaurants or feature profiles. Those are really nice, especially, it really gives you that credibility of somebody else is giving you that endorsement as you're in the upper echelon, right? Sometimes these can be the pay to play, like Margaret was saying. There may be a fee to join the best workplaces, the top 25. Sometimes they are completely editorial. Those are the words to look for if it's editorial, or sometimes they are based on a reader survey. I think Bethesda Magazine is one that does a reader survey. So it's a little bit crowdsourcing. So you get that that boost from not only a publication, but also from customers and fans of your service. So look for those kinds of things. But any kind of like top 25 or featured like that, depending on the business you're in, that may have some real benefit to you. And it could be a nice, badge or profile piece on your website, great piece to throw into social media. So if it fits into your strategy, into your communication network, I think it's something to look at. If it's an organization or a publication people haven't really heard of and it's going to cost you money, you might want to pass on that. There's plenty of other opportunities, as we've been talking about here, to get your name out. And the other thing is, we talked about perhaps there's a concern about getting negative reviews online. Yeah, you might get those, but one great thing you could do on your website, if you don't have a testimonial section or a case study section on your website, think about putting one on there. It's a great place to really curate examples of great customer service, great client relationships. And then you can kind of design that and push that out how you want to tell that story, right? You can highlight the ones that you love. And Margaret shared a nice sample here. There's great graphic programs where you can make a quote and just do that call out quote and really just showcase how your company was able to interact well with a company. And again, these things never go out of style. Your client's usually happy to see something like this as well, or a partner. Another way to use this technique. Who doesn't like to get a nice compliment online? It's really a nice tool to use. Any other things to add here, Margaret?
One other thought about having a review section on your website that you keep updated is that's another way to improve your SEO with Google, because one of the things that Google looks at is whether your site is fresh, in the sense that they don't want to serve something to a user that is out of date. They want to be known as the best search engine. So one of the things they look for is how often your website is updated. And to be honest, like, many people don't have a ton of stuff to update on their website. There's not a lot of content that changes all the time unless you're in a very dynamic industry that is constantly putting stuff out. So having a section where you're making it a goal to add a review every couple of weeks or every month, a blog is another great way of doing that. It lets Google say like, this site has not just been sitting around for the last 6 months or the last year, like it's still relevant. So there's a little bit of that bump that you get as well with SEO.
So again, Margaret was talking earlier, what's the timing and how do you do this? Ask your customers. Sometimes our customers will just give us an unsolicited review or testimonial, or, if you're working for a professional services firm, their clients may say something nice to them and then pass it on to you. That's a great time to ask, well, great, can I use this in social media, or can I put this on my website, or, this is really lovely. I'd love to get the word out about this. I'd say 95% of the time people are fine with that. Sometimes people are like, oh, don't put my name on it. Fine. You can say, customer, or you could say, a new homeowner, or something along those lines, to kind of genericize it a little bit if someone wants to respect their privacy. But most of the time people are happy if they're saying something nice. Of course, they'll want to help you out. They're doing that usually to help you out. So they're probably okay with helping you out one step further. You can text. 56% of reviews are posted from a mobile device. I mean, how many of us are on our phones all the time? Does this surprise anybody? That's another great way to do it. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was reading that, Google, their like open rates on email are something like 20 to 30%. Yeah. Open rates on text message are above 80 and 90%, depending on your industry. So
interesting. I hadn't seen that.
And I think it's probably because I don't know about you guys, but I'm obsessive about like not having like the unread text messages because I get nervous that I've missed something important. And emails gotten to the point where like I just know that there's going to be, hundreds of unread messages and things.
So true.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense that if you text somebody, they're going to respond and follow up with a review.
Yeah, I think the hair salon I go to does reviews through text. So and it is effective because it's right there in front of me when I'm done. And it's really important here to just, figure out when that ask time is. Margaret was sharing the example of her brother's coffee shop. I mean, right there, that just in time kind of method is usually the best, because once you leave the shop and you're on to your next thing, you're on to your meeting, it's forgotten. But after I get my hair cut, I'm sitting in my car, admiring in my mirror. Yeah, I got a great review here, 5 stars. So it is important to do that just in time. For something that's more of a longer term service or professional service, it might be okay to follow up in a few days or a week. But more consumer transactional kinds of things that just in time right away, I think is the best time to do it. But I think there's something you said about making sure it's part of the process, part of the routine, or it gets forgotten. And there are some tools within Google. Google wants you to use everything Google. So they have this marketing kit with buttons and custom post templates. Anything else about what's in the marketing kit, Margaret?
No, it just kind of happened on it and I thought it was great. But if you are looking to solicit things, you can put the review us on Google button on your website. Or if you're looking to design a review, you can put together one of these little badges. They've got templates and it'll add it to your Google profile. So some nice little free options. You can also use Canva. I think it's noted in here somewhere. So they're easy tools so that this does not have to be a long, drawn out, difficult process.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've talked about your profile online with search results and making sure you have good reviews. So social media. So I get responses from people, either they love it or they just are just like, oh, I can't keep up with it, or I have to do it all the time. And yes, you do need to keep up with it, and you do need to do it frequently. And why do you need to do that? That's up to you. And what are you using your social channels for? Are you trying to get more brand awareness, making sure people know your name and know what your business does? Are you trying to sell something? Is it an online shop, or there are online appointments that you're trying to book? Or are you recruiting? Are you using one of those channels to get new employees? Are you trying to find a certain type of employer in a certain demographic? So being clear on why you're using a social media channel for what purpose, that's going to help drive what kind of content that you post on those channels. And then once you determine that, it's monitoring and managing that. Respond to message, even the negative ones, like even if it's I don't like this company because XYZ, wow, gosh, we're sorry to hear about it. Here's an email or phone number that we can talk offline if you want to share more feedback. But just responding, even just having that, you may not be able to diffuse it or make the person happy, but you tried. And, it's better to try than to just leave it go unread.
And it shows people that you're responsive. So if somebody says, oh,
Exactly.
I had a horrible experience, it might be that you say, really sorry to hear this. I thought that we were able to talk in person. You see all the time that companies, quote unquote, clap back, and people are trying to review bomb them or say negative things, and they're like, no, we talked about this in person. We responded in kind. And it's a good opportunity to just tell your side of the story if you need to, or to take the point and get back in touch with them and try to resolve the issue, because people do go back and amend their reviews.
That's true. And sometimes it is helpful to see that back and forth on there, right? If you see, our meal was cold when we got there. Oh, that's terrible. Come back next time. We'll get you a free dessert or a free appetizer or something like that. And you may not even have to go that far. It may just be, we'll make sure you get a nice table by the window or something next time you're in. Just mention this, or, some non-cost kind of things that you can offer too. And sometimes people calm down just because you did respond. I mean, Margaret makes a great point of saying, just respond. A lot of times, when you call to complain about something and no one responds, or you're on hold for 30 minutes, it makes you more frustrated, more angry, right? But if someone, pleasant voice and gets on and talks to you or responds to you and says, yeah, I'm going to look into that, doesn't that kind of lower your temperature? The shoulders kind of go down. That same kind of interaction goes on online. You may not be able to see it all, but it does help. And then just keeping current with your posting so you remain in people's feeds. If you're on different feeds like Twitter and Facebook, and you see when people like something or comment on something sometimes, so you see those names pop up, so they're kind of top of mind in your headspace. If you're not sure what to post, you don't have something to post every day, that's okay. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be once a week. It could be twice a week. It could be whatever makes sense for what you're trying to do. You can use some recurring themes to help plug in some holes, like Throwback Thursday. If your company, say they're 20 years old and you're celebrating a 20th anniversary, you want to showcase some things when you first started the business, or 10 years or something like that. That's kind of fun. Mix up the kind of content. It doesn't all have to be promoting your business. It could be something kind of adjacent or similar to what you're doing in your business. It could be, it might not be just producing, here's a bunch of new items on our menu for our restaurant, but here's a recipe for one of our favorite appetizers. So something a little bit different, but still tied back to the organization. But make sure you're still consistent and have that same tone and voice. If you're more of a casual consumer brand, it's okay to be a little more folksier, personal with your brand. If you're a big, or a high tech company or biomedical company and you're very serious, going out there and saying, hey guys, is probably not going to jive and not going to go well with your brand. So making sure that you kind of present that brand online with what image you're trying to present, and be present in the right channels. You've probably heard that Facebook might be a little bit older, Instagram's a little bit younger. There's different people hang out primarily in these different channels. So copying and pasting the same message in all three, you can do that. Twitter is very short, so you're going to get cut off. So you have to make sure it's within those character limitations, but shifting it up a little bit, even if it's the same basic content, but making sure you're adjusting to the format and style of that channel. And graphics and images are great, not just text. I mean, Instagram, I think, requires a graphic, right? But those are catchy, and your eye kind of stops. You see the colors, you see something on there. It's a little more engaging. Or you see GIFs or little mini videos starting to emerge as well. So a little bit more engagement, interesting things to look at there. Anything else that you wanted to add in here, Margaret?
Yeah, I think just the concept of the right channels. If you are B2B, you might consider being on LinkedIn. You don't necessarily need to be on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I have clients who stress about being everywhere all at once, and it's like, well, are those channels actually where your end user is, spending their time? And I was thinking about, if you are going to be on those channels, as Beth was saying, is your messaging tailored for them? You're not necessarily going to be saying the same thing to your 35-year-old professional who's scrolling through Instagram as you would be to your business executive on LinkedIn. It might be that your audiences are slightly different for those two profiles. So don't overwhelm yourself with trying to be everywhere at once. Pick one or two places that make sense for you and really do it well. And then once you've got that down, then expand your profile and go to different platforms and be present more places.
Yeah, and to that end too, I mean, if you did, open up a page in every single social channel and you're finding you're not getting a whole lot of engagement, it might be time to think about sunsetting, and just not using it. It's okay. Or deactivating for a while and see if anyone misses it. I know some folks have done it just to kind of claim for their brand. And that's a good strategy. But if it's just going to lay dormant, it has that kind of negative effect then when people find you like, oh gosh, they haven't posted anything since 2019. Well, are they still open? So you gotta be a little bit careful with that strategy.
If you do that, you can always put a post on that says, hey, we're not regularly updating this page. Go follow us on XYZ.
Great reminder. Yeah.
Totally tangent, but no matter who's managing your social, make sure all of your login information is saved somewhere where you'll remember it. I can't tell you the number of times, even working with professional organizations, where it's like, oh yeah, we have a YouTube channel. Awesome. Can you get me the details? Oh, that was created by an intern 7 years ago with like a random Hotmail address. Like, no, so just put it somewhere where you'll remember that, whether you use a program like LastPass or you email it to like the full team, being like, whatever you use, just whenever you create anything, make sure that like it stays somewhere secure. So boosting social media engagement, depending on the goals that Beth talked about, what the goals of your page are, you're probably going to want to identify and engage new customers. And that's great because, it lets you spread word of who you are. So get in on conversations relative to your brand. So it's not just about putting out information about yourself. It's also engaging in content that other people are producing. So if you're an expert in home loans, talking about Apex again, because you're right there in front of me, you might find conversations that are happening relative to mortgage or questions that people are putting out there, and you can respond to those with your expertise or chime in with what you're seeing in the market. Research and use hashtags effectively. So if you know that something's trending, like yesterday was Groundhog Day, and the day before that it was the Lunar New Year. It may be that you don't have anything necessarily on point about your business to say, but you can engage in that conversation and say, hey, we're wishing you Happy New Year. And that gets you in that mix of things related to the trending topics. And comment on social posts of brands you admire. So if there are people that you work with on a regular basis or vendors that you work with, I work with a home builder, and one of our big initiatives for last year was to go through and follow back all of the trades that they work with. So like the guys who come in and install the sinks or produce the countertops or like whatever those like various things are. And there are a lot of them. We follow at their channels, and when they share something interesting, we chime in and say, hey, we're so proud to work with you. And they love that. And it builds clout for them, and in turn has them, look back at us and mention that home builder when they're doing something they're proud of. So get out there and engage, even if you're spending like 5 minutes a day saying like, all right, I'm going to go like a couple things. I'm going to comment on a couple things. There's a guy, people love him or hate him, but Gary Vaynerchuk is a marketing guru, and he puts out a lot of things. And he had a great example where a local realtor was saying like, I don't know how to engage. He's like, all right, well, like, look at the 5 people you follow right now, and what are they posting on their feeds? And there was like a guy who was like working out at the gym. He's like, all right. And he just like commented like swole, right? And you're like, has nothing to do with business, has nothing to do with this industry, but it's engaging and it's commenting on what they're putting out, and it's right there at ground level. So don't be afraid of being personal and being fun, and it's social. It's not just promotional. This also keeps existing customers and partners engaged. So thank people when it's appropriate. Tag them in posts. If you're the Thai restaurant and you have someone come through that that who they are, like write back to them, like say, we loved hosting you. Like this was a great party we had here. Just do things that already build on the clout that you're establishing by reining other people into your social presence. The other thing to do is to review your competition. So if you know who your competition is, and most of you do at this point, go online and figure out, if you were a prospect looking for your competition, what would they be finding about your competition, and how do you compare to that? So what type of content are they putting out? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it something that you can emulate? Is it something that you can copy or better? How do they present online? What are they doing that you should be doing? Especially if you know that they're doing a good job. Most people will know who their number 1 and number 2 competitors are. But look at your 4, 5, and 6 guys too, because they're the ones who are fighting for that market share the same way you are. So you can look at them to see what they're doing to fight up the way that you need to be fighting up.
Or maybe there's a gap you see there.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're looking at it from the perspective of your prospect, which everybody should be, like, it's not about what you think they want to know. It's about literally what they're saying. Hey, what about this? There's a really good tool in Google Analytics that allows you to see the search terms that people have used to get to your website. Take a look at that. See if they're on point. Like if people are finding you and you're a Thai restaurant and they're looking for like something completely unrelated, and this happens all the time, you want to know that and think about why it is that they're getting your results when they're searching for that. So look at it from your competitor's point of view, look at it from your prospect's point of view, and do whatever you can to fill gaps. Yay.
Yay. Well, great. I saw there's some chat going on. I haven't had a chance to look at any of them, but we'll take some
I want to
questions.
thank you
Thanks,
both.
Margie.
I want to thank you both. And I also want everyone on here to please review this webinar.
Yes, there we go.
That would be a great practice and a great start for you. So I want to thank you both so much. So let's go to the chat. And let's see, Chris asked, what are the typical costs per month for a decent presence online? And if you could stop sharing your screen,
yes,
that way we can see everybody.
Oh, great. Thanks, Margie.
Okay, and if you want to unmute and ask your questions, go ahead. So, Chris?
Yeah, that was a question. I just know costs can vary. You can do all kinds of different things. I'm sure you could spread yourself too thin and not focus. So I was just looking for a little insight on that.
It really depends. So when we do a lot of that as an agency, and we do get a lot of cold calls. I even have clients like forward me stuff being like, is this legit? A lot of the time it's cold calling and they're just spreading. We'll have, when we think about working with a company, if someone comes to us and says, hey, what do you think we should be spending? We do have tools that we use. Gosh, they're not coming to mind right now, but we have tools that we use to look at your competitor site and to look at your site and to look at the search terms that are relevant to them that would give an idea of the market share. And as soon as I stop talking, the name is going to come to me and I'm going to interrupt. Sorry, I have mom brain like out the wazoo right now. SEMrush, there we go. SEMrush is a great tool to look at your SEO and figure out what you need to do. And it depends on what you need. Like some people will engage with us and we'll just make sure they're all set up correctly. And that's all they need and they can take it from there. And other people want to engage in PPC and typically there's a cost to get things set up and then a management fee to run things. So it really just depends on what our tools say would be like a good spend for you. Depending on your market, like we have people who spend between like 800 and 10K in media spend a month, just depending on what it is that they're looking to do and the competition, because cost is really driven by the demand. But I do see, Chris, to your question about like neighborhood magazines pairing with digital ads. We do a lot of that. It really depends on if your user is using those magazines. Like if your people are reading Bethesda magazine online, like, or in the actual publication, then it's worth it to you. A lot of them, will report the clicks from their side of things. And you can look at your Google Analytics and see what actually got driven to your website. So we look at clicks from those, UTMs on the ads and say, okay, well, they're reporting that they had 75 clicks. We actually saw 50 people come to the website. Here's the results. But we also look at the way that your organic traffic increases during that time, because it's possible that somebody sees your ad and they don't necessarily click the ad, but then they go Google you and find you in a different way. So there's a little bit of lift coming across that as well. And Margie is mentioning too that there's a 2022-2023 business directory in print and online for the Chamber's homepage. So there's a lot of opportunities, but I think Beth's point of like thinking about who your audience is and millennials, like I had the Yellow Pages show up in my mailbox the other day, and like it went straight in the recycling. Like I don't know if anybody actually uses the Yellow Pages anymore, but like just think about who people are and what they're using, and if they're in Bethesda Magazine, then like if your competition's in Bethesda Magazine, that's the way. That's how I look at those things. And you can always ask them to give you a value add or a bundle. They're usually pretty, they're driven by ad revenue. So they're usually pretty willing to work with you.
Oh, no, great points.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Other questions? These are good ones.
Would you say that there is a certain percentage of or what ratio should you do business posting versus something fun? Because you had touched on that before, but is there like an 80-20, or in your opinion, what should that be?
Do you have an answer, Beth?
I don't even know if it needs to be 80-20. I mean, maybe 90-10. Again, it kind of depends on the personality of your brand. If your brand's a little more consumer facing and you have a little more fun with it, you could probably up that a little bit. If it's, a very serious business to business kind of brand, probably wouldn't do a whole lot of that. Maybe every once in a while. But more consumer brands, I see that interjecting a little bit more fun more frequently.
Yeah, and you can totally do fun things that relate to your business, bringing up another new home builder example. We can push homes to move into, we can push features, we can push all the silly stuff. But, if the salesperson goes and has lunch at a great restaurant around the corner, that's a fun thing to post about. You can be like, hey, look at this great meal. You can tag the restaurant. You can take a great food picture, which people always love. And it's highlighting the quality of life that people could expect when they live in that community. So it's a fun thing that's not just pushing sales, but it tangentially relates back to the overall concept of what they're trying to do. So with Google, when you add photos and stuff to your business profile, you'll see like it has interiors, it has exteriors, it has team pictures. So even if you are like a business, like a B2B company, you have the opportunity to add pictures of your team having fun, like things that humanize you, that's not quite so corporate, if you will. So if you're having a team lunch or you just had a great meeting with a client, those are things that are fun, that are still business related, like tag the restaurant, just had a great business meeting here, loved the fajitas. I don't know. They're opportunities.
Right. And even better if they're a chamber member, right, Margie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think the main point is, if you're having a hard time coming up with something business related, post something fun. Like it's better to be in the feed and have something out there than it is to not put anything out there because you can't come up with something business related. So like the Throwback Thursdays, we use that a lot because we're like, oh shoot, what do we post? And it's like, Facebook memories, like this time 10 years ago, or this time 5 years ago, we were doing something XYZ, and you can share that. So yeah.
Or sometimes these kind of like national or observations, right? Where it's, National Cheese Day or Chocolate Cake Day, or, if there's a hint of connection to your business there, or Talk Like a Pirate Day is one that people
Yes.
seem to love, right? You know, so again, if you're a brand, if that's going to look out of place and weird, I would stay away. But if it's something fun, you know, I think it's like Krispy Kreme who does something. If you come in dressed like a pirate, you get a free dozen donuts or a free donut or something like that. So, you know, trying to be a little creative with things like that, you know, can pay off. It's gotta match with your messaging and your brand personality. Yeah, Margie.
I have one thing I want to bring up.
Sure.
People on Facebook, on their personal page, maybe
Yeah.
will post things politically, which I don't think is appropriate, because people do look at your personal page as well as your business, and I think that
Yeah.
you have to be careful what you do post, because
Sure.
it could affect your business. Also, on that Google reviews thing, I heard that I don't know if it was Yelp, but I heard if there's a negative review, try to get some positive ones to make it move down and down and down. And
Yep.
Larry does a great job. I see Larry all the time with his 5.0 reviews. He does a great
Nice.
job. Yep.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah, no, those are some great points, Margie. Larry, do you have some tactics you can share with how you get those reviews going?
We use a platform called Experience.
Okay.
So it sends out midway through the process, like when we hit a certain milestone with the loan, it'll send it out to the clients, and then also at the end. And it also will go out to the realtors involved in the transaction, but not all the time, because we tend to work with the same realtors.
Gotcha.
And we just, it's just the way that it's delivered. They make it pretty easy. And then it automatically pushes everything out to social media channels that you've got it set up on. So it's really kind
Nice.
of plug and play.
Yeah.
But that's how we do it. Yeah. And it's great. I mean, we do have we have thousands of reviews, and it's all.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Congratulations. I think you hit on another key point, make it easy. If you have to go log in, again, you know, forget it. If it's
Right.
just click, you know, easy, people can do
Yeah.
it. So that may be a barrier for Facebook if people don't have a Facebook page or aren't on there often, don't know their password. So that may not get us, but Google, you don't need anything. You can just click on that. And it sounds like the system that you guys are using doesn't require that either. So that's great.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Beth and Margaret, why don't you put your information in the chat in case anybody has follow-up
Sure.
questions for you? Your emails would be great. If you
Uh-huh.
guys know, you can save the chat. And how you do that is if you go down to the chat and you see the 3 little dots on the side, you know, next to where it says 2, and you just click on the 3 little dots, and the top one says save chat. So you can save the chat.
I learned something new today.
That makes 2 of us. Wow.
Yay!
Very well done. That was really good. Thank you both.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if you have ideas about what other topics you'd like to hear about, just putting
Yeah.
a plug in for the marketing committee. Like, we're figuring out how we can best serve the constituents of the chamber, of Rockville in general. So if there are other things that you want to talk about or have us focus on, please, you know, follow up with an email or let us know what would be helpful.
And
Yeah,
hopefully our
thank
next
you.
one will be in person. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, hopefully.
We're looking at like in April, so stay tuned for the second one in our series. So thank you all very much for coming. I'm going to stop the recording now.